I had a problem with my back, but it's almost cured now. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar Tata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Somehow we lost the book with the marker in it. You don't know where it is. 15, 8, right?
Yes, Paul. Text 8.
Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Would you like a book, Prabhu? Book. You can. Okay. So. On this 24th day of September 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 12, Devotional Service. Text 8, in the middle of page 517. Mai eva mana adhatsva mai buddhim niveshaya nivasishyasi mai eva ata urdvam nasangshayaha mai eva mana adhatsva mai buddhim niveshaya nivasishyasi mai eva Hatu urdvam nasangshayaha Maeva mana aratsva Mahi buddhim niveshaya Nivasishyasi maeva Hatu urdvam nasangshayaha Maeva mana aratsva Mahi buddhim niveshaya Nivasishyasi maeva Ata urdvam nasangshayaha Maeva mana aratsva Mai buddhim niveshaya Nivasishyasi maeva Ata urdvam nasangshayaha. Ladies? Maeva mana aratsva Mai buddhim niveshaya Nivasishyasi maeva Hata urdvam nasangshayaha. Anyone online?
Mai eva mana adhatsva
Maeva mana aratsva
Mai buddhim niveshaya
Mai buddhim niveshaya
Nivasishyasi mai eva
Nivasishyasi maeva
Ata urdhvam nasamshaya
Hata urdvam nasangshayaha. Mai upon me, eva certainly, manaha mind, adhatsva fix. Mai upon me, buddhim intelligence, niveshaya apply, nivasishyasi you will live, mai in me, eva certainly, atak urdvam thereafter, na never, sangshayaha doubt. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. Purport. One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane. He lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad Gita and in other Vedic literatures. Hare Kṛṣṇa, page 517. Okay. Yeah, you can sit. Yeah. We have a book. So, this chapter is entitled Bhakti-yoga, Devotional Service. And it's a very short chapter, only 20 verses, but a very important chapter. At the beginning of the chapter, Arjuna asks a critical question: which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear, welcome. You have the page they gave to you? Okay. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the very beginning, second chapter, first canto of the first canto, second chapter, there's a passage of about 15, 16 verses, which give the essence of the whole teachings. And the sages in Naimisharanya asked Sutta Goswami, who had heard, was in the audience when Shukadev Goswami first spoke the Bhagavatam, having heard it from his father Vyasadeva. And amazingly, I mean, you know how hard it is for us to remember things, even in middle age or young age. He memorized, he just heard it for 7 days, and he had it all memorized. Sutta Goswami. This is the clarity and brilliance of the minds in those days, especially of the Brahmin class. So then he repeated it later in Naimisharanya when Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days, and he sat down, you see. So Sutta Goswami, who was in the audience at first, he told him the whole Bhagavatam. So this passage has to do with Dharma. What is Dharma? What is the supreme Dharma? The sages were asking, what is that supreme Dharma for people in this age by which they can become supremely happy? Suprasidati. The word suprasidati means how they can achieve the highest happiness. In the Vedic culture, there is a statement, Sarve Sukhino Bhavantu. Maybe you heard that when you were children. I think not as much as Yada Yadahi Dharmasya Glani Bhavina. It's kind of one of these sayings, and Prabhupada would repeat it sometimes. Let everyone be happy. You see, unlike today, let me be happy, and those guys go to hell, right? There's all of this, just the opposite. And so, the only people who would feel like that and say something like that, who are those who are already happy, and that they think, let me try to make others happy in this world. So how can that be? Because there's a competition for scarce goods, there's all of these divisions, there's the threefold miseries. How can we be happy in this world, as happy as possible to be? So the sages ask, what is that dharma? Now the word dharma is an English word by now. English just sucks up all kinds of words. We got French words, we got German words, we got Sanskrit words. I looked up Kshatriya in my unabridged dictionary. This is like 25 years ago, and it was already there. Because the English had occupied India, so they brought a lot of words back. But dharma is very common to understand, and it's commonly translated as religion. But it's more than that. Dharma ultimately is that essential nature of something. Like everything has a dharma. I always give the example of the chair. Those who have heard my classes before. That chair there, we got actually a set of new chairs. We had all these new chairs. The chair has a dharma. What's the dharma? You sit on it and it supports you. Now, if you sit on this chair and someone has sabotaged it and it collapses, it's no longer following its dharma, you see? It's a chair in name only, you see? So then the real question is, well, what is our dharma as living beings, as jiva souls, as Krishna explains we are at the beginning of the book? We're actually pure consciousness. We're not these bodies. The bodies we have are temporary, obviously. That we know. That's no profound statement. But Krishna compares them to like clothes. The soul, which is a very minute particle of consciousness, indestructible. We're never born, we never die. But when we're embodied in any body, but especially a human body, when we can project the future and learn from experience, we know it's a temporary covering, you see. But if we really understand that we are this eternal soul, then we can understand Krishna's statement that, because his whole argument for Arjuna at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita is that what are you so concerned about killing your teacher and your grandfather Bhishma Dev, and all these other friends and relatives on the other side. This is what Arjuna. That's why he was paralyzed. That's why he sat down in the chariot rather than start shooting his arrows. He couldn't fight because there were all these dear people on the other side. He said, "Oh, how can I kill them?" And everything. So he had some arguments there. But Krishna's argument was, look, nobody dies. You see? It's just like changing an old set of clothes. You take this old set of clothes off and you put on a new set. And because your dearmost grandfather, Bhishma Dev, who was a fighter on the other side, even though he was elderly, he was very, very skilled fighting. And his teacher, Dronacharya, who taught him the military arts, you know, he especially felt very close to them, and they're on the other side. So yeah, how can I fight? So Krishna, he presented the truth that they will actually be benefited from this, because they're dying in my presence, and this is part of the facts of spiritual life. That if you pass out of your body in the presence of Krishna, of God, then you're going to a much higher, you know, situation. So he gave that analogy of just taking off an old set of clothes and putting on a new set. So what we've had up till now in the previous chapter, this was the universal form. It's very dramatic. And Arjuna wanted to see the universal form, and it's explained in the commentaries in Prabhupada that he didn't really want to see it for himself. He is more interested in seeing the beautiful two-handed form of Krishna, Shyama Sundar. He had a friendly relationship. This is a rasa. For eternity, he would keep taking birth with Krishna, and they would be friends. So, but he wanted to see it for future generations. If someone claims to be an incarnation of God, which we have in abundance in this age, right? Then you can say, okay, show me a universal form, and I'll believe you. And nobody would be able to do it. So that's one of the reasons he asked. And ultimately, Arjuna says, because you know he saw this incredible form, full of all power and annihilating both armies. And then Arjuna was frightened, and he said, "Who are you? You know, I don't recognize you as my dear Krishna. Who are you? You know." So this famous verse, I don't know if it was in the movie. I didn't see the movie. There was a movie called Oppenheimer. Did he chant the verse? But in real life, he studied Bhagavad Gita. He was in charge of the Manhattan Project, which is to build the atom bomb during World War II, drop it on the Japanese. But he was a student of Bhagavad Gita. I don't know how. But anyway, when he saw the first bomb blow up, the first test in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and I heard that some of the scientists there, they weren't really so sure or positive that the thing would have destroyed the entire universe or steal the whole Earth. There was a possibility, but they went ahead with it anyway. So it was you've seen pictures of, you know, bombs blowing up, even the little atom bomb, but to speak of the hydrogen bombs. So when he saw that, he recited a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Yes, and it's right here in the previous chapter. Arjuna is frightened, and he's asking Krishna, "Who are you?" And he's just seen him destroying the whole army and everything. So it's, let's see. It's verse, I should know this number by heart, but I don't. All these prayers. Okay. The verse is Kalosmi Loka Chayakritpa Vidho. And that is on page 479. So why don't we just chant that one just for all time? 479, verse number 32. Shri Bhagavano Vacha Kalosmi Loka Chayakrit Pravidho Lokan Samahartamiha Pravittaha Ritepi Tvam Nabhavishyanti Sarve Ye Vastita Pratyanikeshu Yodha Ikesha Yodha. The Supreme Personality of God had said, "Time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain." So this is the verse that Oppenheimer chanted, because he saw this destructive force that is inconceivable, you know, at that time. And so he was reminded of this. So this is not, now, just to go back to the context, you can't really have a loving relationship with the universal form, you know. The relationship you have is one of awe and reverence, trembling. There's a relationship, but it's not really much bhakti there, right? So the universal form is something that we can, let's say, we can like visualize or understand. This is the power of God. You see, it's practically infinite, and that just the universal form is insignificant compared to the energies that are displayed throughout the universe, which is all under Krishna's control. But what bhakti means, bhakti-yoga, because this chapter that we're in now is called bhakti-yoga, devotional service. So this is the chapter that gives essential instruction in how we can revive our original nature as intimate servants of Krishna, friends of Krishna, lovers of Krishna, parents of Krishna. All of the relationships that we relish in this world that are, tragically temporary, you see, because even though you may love your child, but your child grows up, right? You may have a good friend, but they move away. I remember that happened. I had my best friends, after suddenly they all moved away. I said, oh, now what am I going to do? Who am I going to flip my baseball cards with, whatever. So that's the nature of relationships in this world. It's the source of any happiness. And it's not just relationship with people. There's pets, there's all of your inanimate objects that you treasure. That's also a kind of relation called shantaras. They don't actively serve you, but they're always ready, that you can use them. So you treasure such things, Or you have some relic from when you were a child, and it brings back so many memories, So these are all relationships. But when in the conditioned state, in our state of conditioning, means with a material body, the force of time destroys all these relationships. Ultimately, it's all taken away. In the chapter 10, Krishna is giving us a whole list of things. Arjuna asks us, how can I see you in this world? How could I think of the things in this world? And then they remind me of you. So Krishna starts giving examples of bodies of water. I am the ocean. Very powerful and all-encompassing, awe-inspiring, you see. And he goes on, and then he comes to one thing. Mrityu sarvaharashchaham. Of destroyers, I am death, all-devouring death. And this means that everyone sees God, ultimately. Now, we want to see God in His loving form, having reawakened our relationship with Him. And that means that at the time of death, you won't be afraid. You'll be being welcomed back onto the Vaikuntha airplane to go back to Godhead. And we've seen that amongst devotees. I've been around so long. I'm a fair kirtan leader. So anyway, they asked me to sing. The devotees who were terminal. I remember distinctly, practically all the instances. I remember Radhanath Das. And I don't know if you remember him. No. But he was an incredible devotee. He was, from the time I met him in Miami, he had this chronic disease. At that time, he was still fairly mobile. He could, use crutches and things. But it was painful to see. He had some kind of neurological thing going on. But he was sincere. He would chant his rounds, and amazingly, he would go out to distribute books. Even in his wheelchair, he had an assistant, and he would go out to the parking lots and things. And you can imagine, you're parking your car, and here comes somebody in his wheelchair. He said, "Take this book," He would do pretty well out there. But eventually came a time when, his time was up. So he asked me, okay, I'm going to, they had offered him, you don't have to die now, but you can't have so much independence. You have to stay on this breathing machine, so if not forget that. So he said, you can pull the plug at this date, and he made sure that I was here. I said, well, he can't do it on Friday because I'm going to a lecture, so should we do it on Thursday? Okay, we'll do it on Thursday. So he was just completely, into it. And we all gathered, and you probably don't know this, but Balaram. Balaram is, you remember Balaram. So, and his mother, they were both devotees. They got a book in the parking lot from Radhanath. So they had real love and appreciation for Radhanath. I remember Rohini doing the kirtan. She went up to him. She was crying, thank you so much for giving us a book, And so, but he was peaceful. He was just lying there, you know. And recently we had this incredible experience with Shamali, who was Yamunapati's and Parashakti's daughter. So he grew up here. I remember when I moved here in '89, and actually in '92 when I moved closer, they were living right across from me on Grand Avenue. I mean, right across the little, you know, in the same apartment complex. And little Gora, that was the little daughter, she was about 4, 5, 6, you know, like that. And then she learned to play the flute, you know, and I said, oh, I play the flute, you know. Very delightful, wonderful girl. Eventually she grew up, she went to school in the UK, and she went on the Polish tour with Indradyumna Swami. You know, every year for like 25 years he's been doing that. And that's when she got, you know, back into serious devotional service. She took initiation, came back and everything, and she's known as Shamali. She married one of our alumni here, Bhishmadev, who was the president here at one point, and then she married him, and then they lived in Alatra. They didn't have any kids. I used to see them when I visited there all the time. She'd take me to lunch, you know, and everything. I have a picture. So then, tragically, this was a few years ago, she learned she had this cancer, inoperable cancer. So Yamuna, you know, took time off from work, went to see her. He actually stayed there, and Parashakti went and came back, and you know, and she had friends all over the world. She had made all these friends, and they would get on, you know, with the phones, you can get on there, you can do FaceTime or whatever, you know. And her spiritual master would call her from Vrindavan and enliven her. I called it also, and I chanted some nice verses for her, you know, to meditate on. And Yamunapati, then we had a wonderful memorial after she passed, and Yamunapati was, you know, leading the whole thing. And he described that when she passed, she was so peaceful, you know, so peaceful. It was just like a Vaikuntha airplane came and took her back, you know, you could just see that. I mean, I happen to have experience of seeing many people die, because I worked, before I joined, I worked in the 72, yeah, 72 and part of 73, I worked in a hospital in Long Island. And I was an inhalation guy, and I would take the bags out and give them oxygen, you know, when it was 999, and go out to, you know, the emergency. And so I saw many people die. And it's always a very painful thing to watch. You know, people are panicking, they're tremendously stressed, and the last thing, because they don't know what's going to happen, you know. And oftentimes they're seeing these Yamadutas. There's a technical term for it, terminal restlessness. The nurses know, he knows about it. And they're seeing the dogs, what are the dogs doing here, you know, and all these things, and oh, they're having terminal restlessness, they give them a sedative, you know, like that. But they're seeing the first hints of this experience that happens, the Yamaraj and Yamadutas. So anyway, here Krishna is going to give very, very concisely now, he's going to speak about the process of devotional service. And he's contrasted it, remember the beginning of the chapter, which is the best? The impersonal understanding where you kind of lose your individuality and merge into the oneness of Brahman, or bhakti? And the reason why I invoked that chapter in the Bhagavatam, because the sages ask, what is that dharma by which one can achieve his eternal blissful nature? And it doesn't end. Every kind of pleasure in this on the material plane has a beginning and an end, and so it really is a trap that Maya has for us. These sense pleasures keep us bound in the material world, and so here's my favorite verse from Bhagavad Gita, which I chant often. Those may have heard it. 5:22. Yehi sangsparjaja bhoga dukkha yona evate adyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Intelligent persons do not take part in the pleasures that are due to the contact of the senses with their sense objects. O son of Kunti, such pleasures are the sources of all misery, and they have a beginning and an end, and so the wise do not delight in them. So this means that real pleasure doesn't have an end. It may have a beginning when you take it up again, when you go back to guided. But spiritual pleasure doesn't have an end. And that's why you see, we saw with Srila Prabhupada and so forth, even in, old age, when admittedly, there's difficulties, medical difficulties and everything, but still they maintain their peaceful demeanor and their blissful demeanor. They're at a place that's beyond the body. And when you're out of the body, you're not, getting another material body, but you're resuming your spiritual body, your siddha deha. It's a name for it, the perfect body that we have. It's a spiritual, but we've lost it, we've forgotten it by getting entangled in this material world. So Krishna consciousness means taking our natural desires and our activities of the senses and our mind and intelligence, everything we have, and through time-tested means, learning how to link them up to Krishna. This is the yoga part, bhakti-yoga. Through, especially in this age, sacred sounds, beginning with Hare Kṛṣṇa mantra. The mind is very fickle and is ready to go here and there. But if we learn how to focus it on this chanting, both individually and collectively, then we'll be purified very quickly. As Lord Chaitanya famously said in his Shikshastika, very beginning word, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. This Sankirtan, this congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna, polishes the mirror of the heart, polishes the mirror of the mind. And so the whole verse is a long Sanskrit verse. I'm going to give you the translation that I kind of tweaked it and turned it into a poem. All glories to the chanting of Sri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world. Of transcendental knowledge which will take you to life's goal, the chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds, wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention, as I earnestly request, please chant Sri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. So that verse is more or less the foundation of this whole movement. Lord Chaitanya bases preaching on it. And the wonderful thing is, I won't go through all 8 verses, there's 8 verses, there's Astika. But the next verse is very important for us because it says, Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava too, your names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace, but I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. So the rest of the Shikshastika, the next verse, he describes how we can get that taste and, the process. But this is the power of Krishna consciousness. As soon as you think of Krishna, through in his name and the form of through the philosophy, when we read this Bhagavad Gita, we're directly hearing Krishna's words. The Sanskrit, of course, we don't understand, but Prabhupada gave us the English translation. And so we're directly associated with Krishna. And we're getting purified and enlightened. And if you become inspired by the Bhagavad Gita to become a little serious in Krishna consciousness, you'll feel Krishna's presence in your life. And so many layers of, doubts and depressions and everything will just be thrown off. It's because it works every time. There's this one movie I'd like to refer you to. It's a movie that Yadubar made, his last movie. It's called, what else? Hare Kṛṣṇa. The mantra, the movement, and the Swami started it all. It's on YouTube now. Just to key in Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna, and you'll get that movie and others maybe with Hare Kṛṣṇa, but you see that one. And it's very wonderful. It tells the story, and many of his devotees, they come on camera and they relate, and narrate the thing. And it's very dramatic and moving, actually. And the difficulties Prabhupada faced, all just to bring us what we have here, the temples and the mantra and the association, So, in our verse today, Krishna is giving this essential instruction. Fix your mind on me. That's the first thing. And engage your intelligence in me by hearing about me, speaking about me, writing, thinking about me, like that. And thus you will live in me always without a doubt. So the whole thing in all yoga systems, it's the mind that has to be controlled. The mind, as Krishna says famously in the 6th chapter, the mind can be the best friend or the worst enemy. The mind, which is full of all kinds of doubts and desires and fears and grudges and all these things, moving you in the materially conditioned, is keeping us bound up here. There's a word called the hridaya granthi. It's like the knots in the heart, and the heart includes the mind. It means these are our desires that become almost like addictions. You can't give them up, And Arjuna asks, what is it that impels us to act even against our own, knowing that it's harmful, yet we do something like that? Atakena payuktoyam papam charati purusha. Anichan, almost against our own desires. Abhivarshanya, baladi vinayojita, by force. And Krishna says very distinctly, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajoguna samudbhava, Mahashado, Mahapapa, Vidyanam, Vairinam. It is lust, Arjuna. And lust doesn't just mean sex desire. It means any strong, powerful desire that's impelling us to do this or that. And when they're frustrated, then it becomes anger. Anger is brother of lust. Rajoguna, born out of the mode of passion. These modes are very important. We'll learn a lot of details in a few chapters, the 14th chapter. Mahashano, it's all devouring, sinful enemy of this world. So it's that lust is nothing but love of God that has been curdled, if you will, and changed into the passions of this world, which are always getting frustrated, and so we become angry or depressed, and I got to take a pill or something, and then we get more entangled in that. It's one thing after another. So Krishna consciousness, you can cure all of that. You can sublimate. I love this word, sublimate the material desire into the desire to serve Krishna. And sublimate means to return to the natural state. We don't belong here. This is not our home. If it were our home, we could stay here. But no, we're going to get kicked out of this body, and who knows where we'll go. But if you know the science and you say, okay, let me do as much as I can to revive this relationship, and then in my next body, Krishna promises several places, you'll go on with your bhakti. Everything material will be taken away, beginning with your body, your bank account, your car, everything. Kids, whatever you have. You're in another body now. But your bhakti will not be taken away because it's a spiritual asset. We should invest in that, All right, so let's go on, unless there's any discussion. Atachittam samadhatum nashaknoshi mahistiram abhyasi yogena tato mamichaptam dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of bhakti-yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. Purport. In this verse, two different processes of bhakti-yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga is the purification of the senses. At the present moment, in material existence, the senses are always impure, being engaged in sense gratification. But by the practice of Bhakti Yoga, these senses can become purified, and in the purified state, they come directly in contact with the Supreme Lord. In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money. And the master also is not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. So there's no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service, performed with the present senses. The love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. That's very important. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. And there, love of God is manifested in different ways. But it is contaminated by material association. Now the heart has to be purified of the material... Okay, I think we're going to add a comma there. Now, the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. To practice the regulative principles of bhakti-yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. Then collect flowers to offer to the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasādam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow, and one should constantly hear the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of bhakti-yoga, under the rules and regulations, with the direction of a spiritual master, will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. So this is a very significant, important purport here. So the point, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation. So that's all of us, in our beginning state. We can't do it without, if we could do it without deviation, we'd be pure devotees. So the deviation comes because we have all of these tendencies in the heart, that are dormant in there. And they come out involuntarily. So there's no question, it's very rare, but there's no question of suddenly, becoming a pure devotee. There's a path, that's why it's called bhakti marga. It's a path of bhakti. And this, what Prabhupada refers in this purport to a very important verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Lord Chaitanya speaks to Sanatana Goswami. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Kadayayudoy. It's a very seminal verse. So the eternal perfection of love of God, Nitya Siddha, Nitya means eternal, Siddha means perfection, of Krishna Prema, Sadhya Kabunoi. Sadhya in this context means something that you will get from outside. In other words, it's something that you don't have now, but that you can get it, you see. But he says, no, this is not like that. He says, this eternal perfection is already with you, but it's just covered. So how can we attain it? Second line of the verse. Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Kadayayudoy. Shavana means hearing, and Adi refers to the other 8 processes of devotional service. So you get Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Those are the 3. I would go through all the others, but Archanam, worship, is another one, you see. So hearing, chanting, and remembering. We experience that all the time materially. We hear something, we read something, we may read it out loud to our friends, and then we remember it. I remember still pastimes of Huckleberry Finn that I read when I was a kid. I got absorbed in that, it's in there. So we want to purify the hearing and chanting, so we're hearing and chanting Krishna's pastimes. And just as a sample, because it's 8 o'clock now, we have such a wealth of beautiful descriptions in Shastra, you see, that we've been given, the whole 10th canto, the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. And they provide a wealth of things for us to hear and chant and talk about and think about. We could probably give it. So we need to replace those, a million different things. Everyone's carrying out the whole world with them in the phone, right? You can go anywhere, be anywhere. You can, now they think we're going to have to outlaw these phones in the grade schools now, because the kids, the mental health is going. They're seeing this, seeing that, being bullied online. Oh my God, what are they saying about me? So that's available. But also, by Prabhupada's effort, is available these pure vibrations, beginning with the Hare Kṛṣṇa mantra. But I'd like to share with you a couple of, some of these beautiful descriptions of Krishna from the Shastra, and I put some of them into poetry, English poetry. So the first one is very easy to learn. This is a verse from the Krishna Karnamrita, a very famous book in Gaudiya Vaishnava circles, written by this blind poet named Bilvamangal Thakur, who was spiritually, he could see Krishna in his spiritual eyes. So he wrote this book, and this verse is quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita 2 or 3 times. And it's very easy to learn. But just give you a flavor of the beauty of the Sanskrit language that you can't find even in English. Madhuram, madhuram, vapodasya vibhor, madhuram, madhuram, vadanam, madhuram. Madhugandhi mridusmitam etadaho madhuram 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 madhuram. So if you learn this one word, you've learned most of the verse. Madhuram means sweet. Now, sweet in English has many different overtones, right? Oh, it's a very sweet voice, what a sweet, person he is. He's very gentle, like that. So, the meaning of this verse, sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, Krishna's form. Sweet is still his face, so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Now, we have so many beautiful images of Krishna that have been painted according to the Shastra. We have the deities. So you can take one of those beautiful pictures. I also have very nice close-ups of the deities' faces. If you like to get those pictures, you can see this of Giridhari's face. And you can chant, Krishna's there, he's hearing it. Yeah. And here's another one. This is a prayer. You see, the prayers are so powerful. So it says, this is also the end of the Krishna Karnamrita. Jaya 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 Deva 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 Tribhavala Mangala Divya Nama Deha Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Shavana Mano Nayanama Tavatara. O glory, 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 Lord, O glory unto thee, who with thy holy name bless all three worlds and set them free. O glory, glory, glory unto thee, O Krishna Dev, whose nectar floods our ears and eyes and hearts in endless waves. Now, even if you don't realize that fully, and I certainly don't, if you take the trouble to learn it, chant it, and there's really no excuse, because I put it into English. So all you do is this. I already told your significant other. I forgot your name again? Vrinda Devi Dasi. I told her that I have this poetry file, and I gave him, so I'll send it to you if you write me an email. And I have this beautiful poems of Prabhupada in there, and Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, whole ashtakas, Smita loka shoka mahadajita katam yasya padito girang tu pradam baka kushala pataling pallavayati. Padalambaka kangba panayati nahi premandavaham sadevas chaitanya kritadatta tadang kripayatu. Now, I didn't put that one into a poem, but I'll tell you. Smita loka shokam. This is a verse about Lord Chaitanya. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And by Rupa Goswami, one of his ashtakas that he begins his stavamala with. Smita loka shokam hadati. By his smiling glance, Lord Chaitanya's smiling glance, he takes away the anxiety, the misery of everyone in the world. Smita loka shokam means lamentation. Hadati, jagadan yasya padito, in all the universe. Smita loka shokam hadajitikatam yasya padito girang tu padamba kushala pataling pallavadi. And with his wonderful words, he causes the creepers of devotion to start sprouting in the heart. You see, the plant of devotion. Padalamba kangba panayati nahi premanavaham. And taking shelter of his lotus feet brings out love of God, prema, at once. You see. Sachetanya kimme punandapajasho yasati padam. When, oh when will that Lord Chaitanya again come before the vision of my eyes, And this is a whole ashtaka. Now, I didn't put that into a poem, but I can also point you to that one. Anyway, there's a great wealth of this, and I can help you learn how to chant the Sanskrit, but I didn't put these little English poems together. His lips are sweet, his smile is sweet, his lotus eyes and face are sweet. The heart is sweet, your name is sweet, O King of sweet, you're sweet complete. There's like 30 of those. Very easy to rhyme that because every word ends, every line ends with sweet. And there's a Madhurashtaka by Vallabhacharya, a famous poem in Sanskrit. Madhuradi patera kilam madhuram. That's the phrase. Everything is sweet about the King of Sweet. So just by vibrating these, and especially if you know the language, and it's in Sanskrit, then Krishna's pleased is in the heart, and you'll start to feel enlivened. Is it? Because Krishna's. And so that's how this process works. If you actually, get serious about studying and trying to put in practice some of these things, then you feel more peaceful, more joyful, and you'll be on your way back to Godhead. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Any questions? Okay. We have time for one or two more little poems. Okay. So we can go on with the Shikshastika. how to get attraction for the holy name. You see? Text 3 is the most famous one. Krishna's kavya says you should string it around your neck for constant remembrance. Trinadapi sunichena, todarapi sahishnuna, amanina manadena kirtaniyak sada harihi. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. In other words, Krishna is looking for that desperation, that you know. So we're not taking any shelter of anything else but Him, you know. Then what should we pray for? 2 verses Lord Chaitanya teaches us. Nadanang nadanang nasundaring kapita vajikadisha kamahe mama janmani janmani shade bapata bhakti dahoy taki twahi. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Looks like you guys have to leave, huh? Okay.
We're on a time constraint. It's been enchanting and hard to pull oneself away. So
Hey, we're on YouTube. We're on YouTube. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
okay, that is wonderful.
Yeah, you can find us in the chat.
I was curious. I didn't see any streaming things, so that is good to know.
Yeah. Haribol, thank you very much for visiting us. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Okay. Well, we have time for a couple more. So the next one, there's been this long debate, which probably none of you are aware of at this point, but there used to be, did we fall from the spiritual world or have we always been here? You know? There's a whole school of thought that, no, we have never been in the spiritual world. And how about all, 10,000 times probably say, go back home, back to Godhead. Anyway, this verse, Lord Chaitanya says, I fell into the spiritual world. I nandatanu dikinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam budho kripayata bapada pankajastita dhuli sadushang vachindaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. And then he prays for ecstatic symptoms, that he's teaching us. Nayanang gadadashudariha badanang gadgadarudhayagera pulakaya nichitang vapukada tavanama grahane bhavishyati. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? So the last 2 verses, Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of Radharani. That's the whole. So Yugaitam nameshena chakshusha prabhashahitam shunyahitam jagatsavam govinda vidahena me. Every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes the tears and torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. Oh Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. And then the last verse. Ashlishava padadatang pinashtumam adarshanan marmahatang karotuva yatatatavabadadhatu lampato mat prananatas saheva naparaha. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet, or let him trample me or my most ardent hopes defeat by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint. So let him act in any way he likes without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. And then there's no 9th verse because Lord Chaitanya didn't write it as an ashtaka. But Krishna's Kaviraj gave us a verse at the end of this. This is near the very end of the CC, chapter 20. You'll find a verse, I don't know the Bengali. But the meaning is, these 8 essential verses Lord Chaitanya wrote to teach the practice and the goal of chanting Krishna's holy name. Day by day, whoever sings this hymn will surely reach. Day by day, whoever sings this hymn will surely reach a little closer to perfection, spotless Krishna praying. Send me an email. I'll send you my poetry. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.